Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 21-22 Let's Talk series. I am looking forward to it this year because we are partnering with our friends from Promise Place and going to do a series of Let's Talk about managing mental health and mental wellness during a pandemic, the ABCs. But before we get started into all of that, let's let you meet some of our guests. So Jen, if you'd like to start, and then we'll go to your friend Gayle, and then up to my friend Nathan, and then we'll jump in and get started.
Awesome. Good morning. My name is Jen Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director at Promise Place. I'm also a licensed clinical social worker and licensed clinical addiction specialist. And I am so excited to be here with y'all this morning. This is such a great series. Gayle, my friend and colleague.
Hi, I'm Gayle Westberg. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am the clinical supervisor here at Promise Place and also a trauma therapist here. And so happy to be invited to participate this morning.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Stout. I'm one of the academic advisors here at Craven. I majored in human crisis response and trauma, human service counseling, and I also served as a uniform victim advocate while I was in the military.
And I'm Bill, Director of Advising and Counseling. Did some clinical practice many years ago, inpatient, outpatient, got into education, and just trying to spread the word about mental health now and at this point in my career and where I'm working. And you know, it's good to be with friends, but on a Friday, it's even more fun to be with friends. Yes, indeed. So, the ABCs of the pandemic, and we're going to start with A, and adversity. So let's just talk about adversity for a moment, right? So we could get into Webster's dictionary and pull out something good, but let's give it our own little spin for a minute. And so what comes to mind when I think of adversity is some uninvited disruption. You could call it an uninvited guest, if you will, that causes an undue amount of stress, right? So it comes uninvited, it comes unannounced oftentimes, and it can turn things upside down and just cause this complete disruption. And it could be a one-time event or it could be a long-term event. So that's kind of when I think about adversity. All right. Anybody else want to give what they perceive as adversity?
So I think of adversity as an unexpected challenge that requires various resources to resolve.
I think adversity is something happening that I don't want it to happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just like everyone was saying, it's like an unexpected challenge, and how you handle that adversity is the biggest, the biggest concern is how you handle and how you deal with that adversity.
So prior to the pandemic, we had our adversities, right? You wake up and your tire light comes on and you're like, crap, now I've got to go in and check the air in my tire, or the engine light comes on, or, at work they say, hey, the technology's down. You have several meetings planned, but nothing's working. And you know how it is. So adversity can come along every day, right? But we wake up one day and we hear about this virus and flu, and it's over across the seas, and we're watching it, we're paying attention to it, and we hear it's coming our way, and it does. And then we have an uninvited guest on our shores and in our states and in our communities. And so let's talk a little bit about the additional adversities that brought along while we were just managing the daily, right? And so I'm just going to start with the obvious. What I couldn't believe, some of the adversity was I couldn't find toilet paper. I mean, for real, You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I mean,
What was that about?
I mean, I've never had to worry about, I mean, I've been on the planet for, 50 some odd years, and that was never an issue. That never was an issue. And all of a sudden, wow, that was an issue for us. And yeah, when you have all your family members running around and calling each other, oh, there's some at this store, and then you got everybody on the lookout. It's like you're hunting buffalo because you got to, survive through the winter. And it was just crazy. So, what
It wasn't hoarding. It was a genuine need.
right. So the diagnosis of hoarding became, multiplied at that point in time. Mental health, diagnoses run off the charts. What other kind of adversities did we come up against?
Oh my gosh. So many things. Challenges at work about some places requiring you to wear a mask, some places not. Some places you had to stay far away from people. And I really did not like the phrase, and I still don't like the phrase, social distancing. Can't it just be distant? Why do you have to take the social part and put it with it? So it's like kind of a double whammy for me.
Yeah, with remote learning, whether you had a child in kindergarten or the 11th or 12th grade, them switching over to remote learning and trying to figure that out, and teachers trying to sit there and see, the children paying attention, or if they got their camera turned off, or if it's pointing at the ceiling, or anything like that. So that was a real adverse time, and still is, for some students.
Mm-hmm.
And our rites of passage began to be not, or virtually. Our poor seniors in high school that year, no prom, some of them not really the graduation that they expected to have. Funerals were done virtually. People postponed weddings. So sometimes we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to expect next.
That's something about adversity too, that it's sort of like so unexpected sometimes that there was kind of this shock of pandemic. This can't be happening. I mean, it was happening and I know it was happening, but in my heart, it was hard to get my head around that. This is for real. I think sometimes adversity gives you that little shock effect.
It kind of it triggers that grief response almost of the initial stages of, hey, shock, denial. Wait, no, we can still go out, we can still do those things, and but then it's like, well, no, I remember meetings here at the office, and they kept saying, well, if, and I'm like, no, it's about when. You can say if all day long, but if you look at the trends, it's coming. It's not if, it's when it gets here, and we just need to start preparing for it now. And those types of things. And Jen, I wanted to jump off, what you were saying, because this, again, the Let's Talk is all about mental health and mental wellness, and pointing out what causes the stress and what causes us to get into distress. And that whole social thing is so big because in communities, church, this is a big thing where church is your social time. It's your religious expression, but it's also very social. And a lot of folks, that for them brings them, the nutrients of mental health and being connected with people and having relationships and being able to talk and hug and laugh and cry and do all those things together, and not being able to go to Bible study groups and church services on Sundays and special events. That's a big thing, as well as, other types of activities that we have and hobbies that we have outside of work that really meet those social needs as human beings, part of who we are. Yeah, I think it totally turned that upside down, to be sure.
Yeah, it was
It
just so
really
easy.
did.
Yeah. I was about to say it was just so easy to disconnect with folks, during that time, because if you, like you said, if you didn't get a chance to go physically to church and you were doing something virtually, you might have been missing that opportunity, that interaction, that fellowship, or any type of club or activity or something that you did. And a lot of times people just kind of kept to themselves even more. And so that just made it challenging.
And the absence of human touch.
Mm.
People were afraid to hug.
Or shake hands.
Mhm.
So the social issues, obviously, educational issues, because this affected parents who had children, right? Which affected their jobs, right? So now they have to stay at home because the kids were learning from home. So we had the stress for parents of, okay, how do I be the teacher at home? How do I keep going with my job? If they let me work remote, if they don't let me work remote, how am I balancing all of these things? And for us at the community college, where we have parents who were raising their kids, working a job, and then they themselves were taking classes, working on some type of degree or diploma. And now they were trying to do all three. And that really became an impossible task to try to balance all those plates that were spinning. And that became very stressful that we saw here on campus. So,
I think about some of the folks that were not able to work remotely, the amazing people that work at our local super box stores and the folks that work at our local grocery stores and gas stations, they never shut down. And they were face to face every day dealing with, people coming in a variety of moods and stress levels. And I think that I always wonder, like, how are you doing that? Because you also have kids and school and, all of that sort of stuff going on. And you're still here every day dealing with people that are, stressed out trying to get their milk and toilet paper. It was rough.
Yeah, you hear the stories of the Walmart employees or someplace, somebody like that sit there, had to hide some toilet paper in the back stock room because they're putting it out for everyone else, but they couldn't have time to find it for themselves.
Yeah. And our medical professionals, many times they were exposed to COVID while caring for COVID positive patients. They were with those COVID positive patients who unfortunately passed away. And so they were dealing with stress. I read several stories of medical professionals who had moved out of their home into a space where they were alone. They would go to their shift and they would go back and they would be alone because of fear of exposing their families.
So we talk about those things, and like almost some of it's in the rearview mirror, right? Some of the more intense memories of what we experienced, but the reality is, it's still happening. Those things we still have. I know locally, my wife's a school teacher, so I know when school came back in the fall, and I think everybody wants to return to normal with kids being educated in the schools. It's better for them educationally, socially, and all those types of things. But the problems were that because we're still having the virus circulating, there was, lots of people getting sick. So if you were sick, you had to stay home. If you had been exposed to someone who was sick, you were quarantined. And so there's just been a continued disruption in the schools, still publicly, that they're really not back to normal, and they're still balancing and managing, trying to figure it out, and how to stay healthy, at the same time providing educational services to children. So that is still an ongoing thing, that, of course, for our medical staff and workers, again, it's still real for them. I mean, I'm still sure that those folks are away from their families more than they want to be away from their families. A, because there's a shortage of workers in that field, but B, they're just called upon to do extra, and then again want to keep their family safe. So we're kind of still slogging through a lot of these issues that started. How many? I mean, it feels like it's been forever now. I mean, I don't even. Is it a year? Is it a year and a half? Is it 2 years? I mean, how long have we really, have we been in this situation? It feels like forever.
Yeah. Things have kind of been a little bit of a blur. It's all kind of blending together. And there's this theme that I'm kind of picking up on as we're talking about, like, feeling isolated and feeling separated and feeling disconnected. And as human beings, we're not wired that way. Human beings are wired to, like, talk to other people and be around other people and, like, make all those random jokes and, have those experiences together, where you can laugh when something funny happens in the room that maybe you can't see outside of, like, this square box on a computer screen. It's not the same. And so how do we create those new social connections so we can have those meaningful relationships and friendships and learning experiences? How do you learn when you're dealing with all this?
Mhm. And I did want to point out, and I want to stay the heck away from politics, because that's just a whole other issue in and of itself. But I think the reality that we have to speak of is that in history, when bad things happened, we tended to pull together, right? We would pull together and work together as one to get through the traumas and the tragedies and the disasters and all those kind of things. But sadly, during the time of this pandemic, we have the exact opposite happening. It's the polarization of belief systems. And in a time that normally would help to bring us together and unite us, sadly, we have that undercurrent continuing to divide us, all the way to what you were speaking of, the issues of masks, the issues of vaccinations, and so forth and so on. So that at a time where we really need to have that compassion and bonding with each other, there's this other influence that kind of keeps us from doing that, sadly. And I think that just complicates what we need to do, and what many of us are trying to do, and that's find that common ground and say, hey, we're all in this together. Let's get through this together. But sadly, the divisions make that difficult. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that is currently kind of complicating what we need to be doing right now, to pull together. So that was just a side statement. So, and of course, we can look at the future and say it's not going away anytime soon, right? What variant we're in Delta variant. There's a Mu variant. I hear there's who knows what other variants are going to come. They're saying the regular flu season is going to be an issue this year. So it's like, keep your guard up, because we're not out of the woods. We're still going through it. What has this done? And we can talk from our clinical perspectives, I guess, at this point, as we see our students on this campus that come in to talk regarding counseling and personal issues. And then, of course, they're at Promise Place and other clinicians around the community that and talk with. But what are we seeing? I mean, what is this long-term adversity, this long-term exposure to the situation? What are we seeing? What are we hearing with folks who are coming in, kind of saying, okay, I've had enough. I've reached my point. If you guys want to address that from your clinical perspectives.
Well, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? We're all kind of dumbfounded. And the folks that are coming in to see us are, I mean, just stressed out to the max. I've been handling stuff, I've been kind of skating by, I've been kind of on edge, but kind of reaching a tipping point. And reaching out for help can be part of that healing process. Just reaching out for help and making that first call or stopping by or something can be so helpful to just express to another human being, like, I'm really at my limit. And for that other human being to just acknowledge that and validate it and say, I understand. And you're not alone. You're not alone.
So I think, some of the things that I'm seeing with clients is more anxiety, more depression, and honestly, I would say that is very normal for the experience that we're having. And this isn't just an individual experience, this is a collective experience. And, isolation is never a good thing, as Jen spoke about earlier. We're not designed that way as humans. And sometimes when folks come in, they need that validation that Jen mentioned. And it's so important to be able to say, especially to a professional, how you're feeling and to have those feelings validated.
What are you hearing on the student side, Nathan?
I think the same thing. We have a lot of students that are dealing with, I can say a lot. I mean, there's students that's dealing with depression and anxiety. I think about a lot of students that have suffered the loss of a loved one during this time, during this period, because as we were saying earlier, a lot of times they didn't get to mourn that person or celebrate that person's life the way that they probably would have envisioned, pre-pandemic. And as they're going through the stages of grief, sometimes they are isolating themselves, and then they'll come, at that last moment. I think about like group counseling sessions and things of that nature that probably had to stop or either change to like remote formats that could have been a great, avenue for them to, express their feelings or to heal, and just not having those avenues now, or that social interaction, with those type of like group settings, has caused some more adversity for some of our students.
Yeah, I think it's people have had to take inventory and prioritize, what they're going to be able to achieve and accomplish with the adversity at hand. And for many of our students in a community college, it's non-traditional. So we have a lot of students who are 20s, 30s, 40s, like I said, working full time, if not full time, at least part time, raising families. And some things just have to hit the pause button, right? I mean, what they wanted to achieve educationally may have to take a backseat to, again, just making sure their kids are getting what they need and getting through their educational steps, and then financially making it through, especially those who worked in the restaurant business, food service business, and all that. They had to find ways to survive, and so in education, it has to take a pause for them, and the validation to say, you know what, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up because you can't do it all right now. It's okay to take inventory. It's okay to prioritize, and it's okay to put something on the shelf for a while, so that you can take care of other things that are equally as important, if not more important. And so just giving the support to them to do that. College leadership might not like that. It's like, we still need people in the seats and we got to get FTE and all that kind of thing. But yeah, you know what? We need to have compassion for people and tell them it's okay, and try to help them out. And our campus and college leadership does a lot to help students out. Our faculty, help them through, difficult times. So in many ways, we do have that empathy for our students and what they're going through. But I think we're definitely seeing Nathan and Amanda and Susan on our campus anyway, people who just, have hit that point and just got to get it out and say, yeah, I'm just tired of it. Can it be over? And it's like, yeah, let's process it. Let's talk about it. And to the next stage of what we want to do is to say, adversity is kind of a mental process, right? I mean, when I was younger, I would try to do what I could to avoid having adversity in my life. I would work hard to pre-plan and to try to control all the variables that could throw a wrench into the works. And I soon learned that that's impossible, that, and then if I had adversity in my life, I would beat myself up and say, what am I not doing right? I'm just not smart enough, or, emotionally strong enough, or whatever my weaknesses and faults were. I had to change my mind about adversity and realize that adversity is actually an opportunity for me to identify resources that are outside myself, that it's okay not to lean on myself and depend on myself all the time to get through difficult situations. And so being able to again, validate people to say, hey, look, there are resources. Sometimes you need to ask for help. Sometimes you need to go beyond yourself and reach out. So adversity helps us to maybe develop some new coping strategies and coping skills that would help in the immediate moment. But also what it does, it helps prepare us for the next time Mr. or Mrs. Adversity comes knocking at the door, because it's going to happen. There is no way to avoid adversity. This just happens to be, the one we're currently in happens to be frequent, huge, as you said, collective, and long-term. I mean, it's extensive. But what are your thoughts on trying to extract any positives from how we can spin and reframe managing adversity?
Ooh, pick me. Teacher. I think adversity sounds very like dun dun dun. It sounds big and looming and dark and frightening. But if we sort of like reframe that into adversity, what if we said like need is the mother of all, or how does that phrase go? Necessity is the mother of all invention. And I think one thing that I've noticed during this pandemic is that people are incredibly creative, and people have been able to work very cooperatively together to figure out lots and lots of different kinds of ways to solve problems. It's really been an opportunity in a lot of ways to find those new ways to cope with stress, find new ways to navigate like everyday problems that come up. And, that's sort of a silver lining and a way to tolerate all the stress that has come with this pandemic is that it's really allowed us to be really creative. Working from home, remote learning, remote support groups, remote church groups. In a way, that has brought us together for folks where like maybe transportation has been an issue or childcare has been an issue. It's actually opened up new horizons where oh, I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, but this is working out. So if we can focus on some of the benefits of being creative, it helps that distress from the adversity feel more manageable. And we're going to edit that out, right?
Oh, no. So to piggyback on this positive train, if adversity and we spin it, reframe it, mold it into something more constructive and positive, and use the term opportunities, right? Then I think what it has done, and I've seen it with students coming in, it's created the need for reflection. There's been this opportunity for people to reflect about their lives, and what they're doing and how they're doing it and who they're doing it with. And some, it's been an opportunity for them to make changes in directions for their lives. It's nudged them. I won't say it was a gentle nudge, but it has nudged them into looking at other options. And for some, it's been a very positive and constructive opportunity to do things that they, if not for this uninvited guest, they might not have gotten there. And so I think that's the other part of when we look at adversity is to say, hey, you know, where is this for me an opportunity to develop parts of me, maybe parts that were dormant, maybe parts that I didn't know that were there, that I can really take this and begin to develop it and nurture it. And it becomes such a positive, vibrant part of my life that, wow, okay, it's kind of like I got a new lease on the directions that I'm going. And I've seen that happen with some of our students, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's been an opportunity for growth and development and an opportunity to learn. And, you know, when we experience successes, it really contributes to our self-esteem and our self-worth. And, you know, even small successes, like, oh my goodness, I don't have to travel anywhere. I can do that remotely. Yeah. Can really make a huge difference. And just the stress of that being relieved can be huge for folks.
Yeah, I just thinking about all the even though you know we had the challenges with social distancing and stuff, even how like our college, you know, how we celebrated graduation. We had drive-through graduations these past 2 years, and that's probably been a new tradition that we're probably going to carry on even in our current graduations, just because of the way, you know, the students enjoyed it and they were still able to celebrate those milestones. And even in high school and you know, the other schools that did similar things, where they were still able to take an adverse situation and make an opportunity to better themselves and do well for themselves.
Yeah, those drive-through graduations have been awesome. So yeah, Jen and Gayle, if we end up doing it again this coming May, you got to come and check it out because it's pretty cool.
We love that.
Yeah, it's like a tailgating experience.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's very festive, very, very good stuff.
Who would have
So-
dreamt up a drive-through graduation? I mean, that's one of the like creative, remarkable connections that we've made during this time. I think it's cool.
Mhm, absolutely. So we all talked about, you know, the length of this, and we're getting close to that. So let's put our spins on what we've done today. And I'll tell you what my takeaways are is that the adversity that we all experience every day, day in, day out, became huge a couple of years ago, and it became collective as well as individual. And it has created, for some, a lot more stress than others, especially those, financially, the issues that were caused, housing, things like that. I think all of us, right now could say, hey, we were in a position to be able to stay where we were at, the homes that we live in, the jobs that we had, and things like that. So we were very fortunate and blessed, and not everybody was. And Gayle, what you were saying is that we've seen an increase. Again, when you're under long periods of stress and intense stress, you're going to have more symptoms of depression and anxiety. It's going to wear you down after a while. That fight or flight mechanism that's always turned on high mode, it's eventually going to take its toll on body, mind, and soul and spirit. And that's when we need to say, hey, you talk to somebody, get it out, seek assistance, look for the resources in your area. And now I'll plug what we're doing here at Craven for our listeners is that, when students come in and talk to Nathan and myself, or Amanda and Susan, our advisors, counselors on campus, if it's something that folks need more intensive, longer term, that we lean on our friends, Jen and Gayle at Promise Place, Integrated Family Services, RHA, Pamlico Child and Family. We want to partner with everybody because the needs are great. And I think there's enough of our great resources that we can provide support to our community. So that's why we're doing what we're doing while we're talking about this. The other takeaway that I had was that, as clinicians, we talk about the positives because you have to. You can't stay on the negative because people don't even realize the resilience. And I should be quiet on that word. That's a good R word that we might want to do a whole session on. So I won't go into that right now. But that we can point out to people who may be so under the fog of depression, anxiety, and being beaten up by current events that they can't identify the great things that they're still doing, the successes that they're having, but they can't validate themselves, and they need somebody else to point that out to them and validate for them. And that's huge. And so we want to continue to promote what, it is a negative thing through the process of counseling, therapy, and that we want to pull out, okay, but there's healing, and look at all the things that we can turn into a plus or a win or a positive as we go through this process with hope and intention to do that. So I'm sorry I rambled. So somebody clear it up for me and make it, put it into a nice little bow or wrapping or something.
Well, I can't put a bow on it, but I just wanted to say, for anyone that might be watching this or listening, that really we got to give props, right? Despite a pandemic, you're here, you're engaged in this conversation, you're connecting with your friends or family, you're going to school, you're doing the parenting, you're doing all the things. And while it may feel incredibly stressful and like a lot of adversity, you're doing it. You are doing it. And it's okay to take a minute to just acknowledge that. And so I just want to give you props. Hang in there. You're going to get through this. We're all going to get through this. We promise you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
That was a robust thumbs up from Gayle. I take that was a validation and approval there, Gayle.
I appreciate that being reflected back to me.
Visual cues are very important too. So,
Right.
Nathan, you got anything? Jump in there, Nathan.
No, I think y'all covered it well. I think the biggest things, like you said, we're not alone. Everybody's has some form of adversity that they're dealing with, and we're dealing with some things collectively. You know, when we're dealing with the pandemic and stuff like that. But the resilience that's been shown, you know, by a lot of us, you know, to still be able to be in school and to raise your children and to pursue your educational goals, to pursue better relationships and things of that nature. It just proves just how much grit that you do have and how much, as they say, intestinal fortitude sometimes that you have as an individual, and it's something to be applauded.
For those who are watching and you're like, okay, so who are these people again? So Nathan and I work on campus at Craven. We're in Barker Hall, and if you want to come talk to us, please do. It's walk in. Amanda's here, Susan's here. There's four of us. One of us is always here. Come and see us. And then if things need a little more attention, that's where Gayle and Jen and their staff come in. It's a very seamless referral process that we have with them, and you know, money is not an issue. I don't think is that correct? I mean, we tell our students, you guys work with them. That's if they say, oh, I can't afford to talk to somebody.
We're offering 100% discount. All of our services are provided to our clients at zero charge. You have insurance, you don't have insurance, doesn't matter. We're going to work with you.
Awesome. And so we tell our students, hey, you know, give them a call, tell them that Nathan or Bill sent you. You know, it's kind of like, you know, the tire shop. Oh, hey, Fred sent me to come down and said you guys do good work. You know, so hey, go down to Promise Place. They do great work. They don't rotate your tires, but you know, they'll do the other things that are essential for you. So. But yeah, we're easy to access. But thanks everybody for coming on this morning and having this dialogue. And so, hey, Jen, Gayle, you guys are responsible for the next letter and topic that we talk about. I'm excited to see what you're going to come up with.
Me too.
Well, we've
Being
only used one
busted.
letter. So you got a big option there. And I'm not going to tell you it's got to be starting with the letter Q or Z or one of those. Listen, you guys have a great weekend. It's Friday here. Whenever people listen to this, it might be a Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday, but for us, it is a fantastic Friday. I wish y'all well. And for context, it's Mum Fest weekend. You guys got a booth set up at Mum Fest?
Sure do. Come and see us, rain or shine.
It's going to be rain, my friend, at least tomorrow. But listen, stay dry, have fun, and we'll see you on the next Let's